Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the dynamics of the North Node and the South Node that are very, very soon, like literally in less than a week, going to change signs. Since January of 2022, we have been dealing with the South Node going through Scorpio. And we were going through an 18-month cycle tied to releasing certain things in regards to what Scorpio rules in our charts. On the flip side, because there's always a flip whenever it comes to the nodes, they're always exactly across from one another. We have been going through an 18-month cycle of the North Node going through Taurus, where we've had shifts and gains in this area of life. But on July 17th, the dynamic of these two are going to change. Now, whenever it comes to the nodes and any other time that they go to change signs, with exception to the Saturn ruled signs, so we're going to put a little pin in that part. Any other time that the nodes go to change signs, the dynamic doesn't necessarily change in regards to rulership. It's flat out, it changes to a different ruler. And what I mean by that is, like, if we were going from a Cancer Capricorn axis to the Gemini Sagittarius, we'd be going from Moon Saturn to Mercury Jupiter. So full on the rulers change. When it comes to this area of the chart, the rulers don't change. Taurus, where the North Node is currently, is ruled by Venus. Scorpio, where the South Node is currently, is ruled by Mars and Pluto, but for the example of this conversation, we're only going to talk about traditional rulership. We're going to talk about Mars. Okay? On the 17th, July 17th, when the nodes go to change signs, then they start a new 18-month cycle. The South Node is going to go into the Venus-ruled sign, and the North Node is going to go into the Mars-ruled sign, therefore changing much of the dynamic of what these two are emphasizing in the chart. For the last year and a half, our cycle tied to Mars has been about release and letting go and letting things fall away and letting things kind of purge. Old habits, old ambitions, old desires falling away. Finding something that was going to be more peaceful, finding something that was going to be more in harmony with where we're meant to be in our lives and in our soul contracts and everything else. And now that dynamic is changing, because what's going to happen is the North Node, the head of the dragon, the North Star for where we are going in our soul path in our life, is going to go from the soft Venusian earth sign, grounded, fixed earth, to bold, cardinal, therefore shit-starting energy. It's going into Aries. What's going to happen over these next 18 months is that there is going to be a much bigger reaction to certain things because the North Node, being the head of the dragon, is in that fire sign. It's in that Mars-ruled sign. On the flip side, the South Node, going from that Mars-ruled sign, going from this area where we need to let go of certain actions and certain ambitions and certain desires and find something that's going to speak more to our soul. Now, that South Node is going to go into the Venus-ruled sign. Therefore, the things that we're going to start to release, shift, outgrow, lose, purge, cut off, because all of these apply, are now going to be tied to the Venusian things. By having the North Node going through Taurus, in some ways, we have tipped the scales and put more things into the Venus-ruled areas. But now, the South Node going into Libra, going into the Venus-ruled sign, means we have to start cutting things away, selling some things off. We outgrow them. We just let them go. We give them away. We gift them. The other thing about the South Node is it's the body of the dragon. This body was removed from a head. Therefore, the cutoff game will be very, very real. And the reason I'm saying it just that way is because of how we start the dynamic of the nodes. The way we start this is 1 in a new moon in Cancer, so another cardinal sign. And 2, it's days before the Venus retrograde begins. And whenever we have a retrograde, what do? All of the re's. We refocus, reorganize, review, reevaluate, relook, reconnect, revisit. Sometimes in that re-stage, we remember certain things. We have the chance to alter the way that we saw something before. That allows for us to reevaluate. Certain things have been going so well for so long that now almost some things are getting stagnant. They're getting stagnant because we're waiting on somebody to catch up. We're waiting on somebody to do something. We're waiting for something to turn full circle. Notice how I said turn. When the nodes change signs, the energies that have been activating Venus are going to change. Now, Venus's energy is going to be very, very mixed because we have the South Node in one Venus-ruled sign, but we still have the assistance of Jupiter and Uranus in the other Venus-ruled sign. That means during parts of this nodal timeline, this 18-month cycle that we're starting, we'll have both energies of gains and assistance. I'm calling it assistance. Teammates that are feeding through and are aiding in some ways. But we will still have the energy of release and loss and purge. Now, when it comes to the North Node going into Aries and going into this Mars-ruled sign, there will be certain ambitions that are going to really start to take off. They're really going to turn. There's going to be certain things that really start to run in a lot of ways. This can be both good and bad. I'm just being honest about that. This is now the head of the dragon. Our focus, whether we choose to or not, is going to now be in this area of the chart. Now, the biggest thing that I want to bring up is the fact that in, what was it, the Sagittarius full moon video, I think that's whenever I picked all that up, I said then, so I'm taking some information I brought out before, and I'm going to bring it into this one, make it a lot more cleaner. But I did bring this up once before, and that is whenever we go through certain cycles, every planet has about a rebirth energy to it. In Mercury retrogrades, we deal with that, and that's going to be whenever we have those conjunctions to the sun. In this Venus retrograde, we'll have that conjunction with Venus. All the outer planets go a conjunction with the sun once a year. However, Mars is different. Mars is different because the conjunction to the sun only happens once every 2 years. In October of 2021, October 6th through 10th of 2021, that's when we had the last Sun-Mars conjunction, and it happened in the sign of Libra. We are going to have another Sun-Mars conjunction, and it is going to follow just after the edge of the next eclipse season. This is important because I feel like the first month of Mars's energy, we're going to feel the need for certain things to launch and change, and they're going to happen in certain shapes and forms. However, there will be a timeline that follows right afterwards that not as much happens because other things are going on. And the reason I say that is because Mars is going to spend 6 weeks in Virgo. His average time in a sign is 6 weeks. And then it's going to go into Libra. While in Libra, Mars is in its detriment. North Node is still going to be wanting its gains, and it's still going to be looming for gains, but it's going to take some time for those gains to happen because Mars is going to immediately go from Virgo, where he does very well, to Libra, where he doesn't do well at all. where he will be in his detriment, where he will not be doing so well, where there will be indecisiveness and there will be moments where we're not quite clear on things are going to go. And considering while Mars is there, that host of Libra, which is Venus, will be wrapping up her retrograde and wrapping up her walk of shame, aka the shadow, that walk of shame that ends the retrograde. That's when Mars is going to be in Libra. So there's going to be this timeline of the disruption of Mars is still going to be fueling Venus and the Venus ruled things and what has gone on for Venus while Mars is going through Libra. And that is going to be specific. I should have looked that up. I did not. I was not thinking about that. I was just doing this came to me while I was talking. So that is roughly going to be August 28th to basically mid-October. Yeah, to about October 12th. So about 6 weeks there. During that 6-week period, when Venus is doing her walk of shame, like I said before, we're going to really feel the difference. I want to put this back to where I had it a minute ago. Okay. My bad. Whenever we go through that energy, part of Mars will actually be doing corrective actions, showing the full effect of the disruption that has occurred while it's going through Libra. By the time Mars leaves Libra, Venus will be done with her walk of shame. She will actually be in Virgo and be trailing behind everyone else. It is in the later parts of, the mid parts of November that we will have our next Mars-Sun conjunction, which will be the Mars rebirth energy. Mars will be going from being a evening star to a morning star. Now, that is going to be exact, the Sun-Mars conjunction between November 14th and November 18th. It lasts for a few days. We will feel the energy a week or two before. We will feel the energy a week or two afterwards. There will be times in that time span that a lot of people will be very tired and exhausted, but it is after that rebirth energy, which also occurs after eclipse season. And the reason I'm bringing all that up is because the next eclipse season is completely ruled by Venus. So whatever happens in this Venus retrograde directly goes into the next eclipse season. It feeds into that. We won't get the full on benefit and effect of what Mars and the North Node in Aries is going to be doing until after that rebirth. The other reason I'm saying that is because this nodal axis, when it begins, and again, that's going to start on July 17th and it's going to last for 18 months, so all the way until January of 2025, we start this nodal exchange in a Venus retrograde. We end it in a Mars retrograde. This is going to be a very powerful and dynamic 18-month cycle of allowing new things to come through, allowing new ambitions, new enterprises, new businesses. And the other reason I'm saying those types of things is because of Jupiter. In May of 2022, Jupiter entered Aries. And for the majority of a year, I say majority because there was a 2-month span that Jupiter went back into Pisces. For the majority of that year, Jupiter was in Aries. Jupiter was expanding things, expanding certain hopes, expanding certain ideas, expanding certain dreams, desires, plans, goals, expanding certain things, giving perspective of where certain things needed to be for prosperity, for future hope, for future action to be successful. When the nodes change signs, the North Node is now going to go over the area of the sky where Jupiter just planted seeds and will spend the next 18 months going over all of the plowed fields, let's say it that way, that Jupiter has put seeds into, that has plowed, that has done everything to make an opportunity happen. Think about the things that you have worked through and launched and been taken care of in the last year. Specifically, since May of 2022, just for this part of the conversation. If we were creating some type of process or program, now we're going to see them launch. That can be computers. That can be literally like if you're growing food. That could be literal planting. If you have been spending the last year learning certain things, taking on certain studies, taking on certain experiences, now we're going to see where that experience can go further, where it will expand, how it will grow, how it will continue, how it will do well, because we are going to have gains in an area that Jupiter was just in. There's a lot of good things that can come with this axis of the North Node going into Aries and the South Node going into Libra. And the main thing that I'm seeing is that where there has been imbalance, there will now be releases, adjustments, cutoffs that eliminate the excess. That's what's going to happen with the South Node going through Libra. With the North Node going through Aries, as the excess is trimmed, as the fat is taken off, jiggle, jiggle, as these things are shaped and adjusted, purged, released, outgrown, the shifts in perspective in this area, as this is put into balance, new enterprises, new businesses, new things are going to start to come through. New actions, new desires, new ambitions, new drive will come through with the North Node going through Aries. For some of us, we're going to know exactly what some of those areas are from the beginning. We will have quick forms of action, critical action, necessary action, that allows for space to be lined out. And then we will have a moment where things are dull and slow. And it takes time to get a groove. It takes time to find the momentum. It takes time to put things in perspective. And then after the Mars rebirth, then we will really get a good idea of the gains. That is not going to happen again until November. That's when the rebirth is, and that's after eclipse season. So, 6 weeks of strong Mars, 2.5 months roughly of not so strong. It's going to do well whenever it goes into Scorpio, but it's in Scorpio that we get the rebirth. So, it's kind of hit and miss. But after the separation, and after Mars comes through in its new form, and that new enterprise, and that new entity, and that new drive comes through, so too will the gains that we're meant to have of the North Node going through Aries. So too will those. Now, if you have your nodes going through Aries and Libra, people that are born between December of 2004 to June of 2006, so I'm going to have a range of dates here. This is going to be specific to nodal return, so people that are falling into alignment with this energy. So nodal returns, the first one I have is December of 2004 to June of 2006. The next date span I have is April 1986 to to December of 1987. I just looked at the two. August of 1967 to April of 1969. And then January of 1949 all the way to July of 1950. If you or somebody you know falls in this date category, this is a timeline of alignment, nodal returns. When you have the North Node go back over the place in the sky where your natal placement is, this is going to be an 18-month timeline of alignment, getting things in alignment for you, getting things in alignment in regards to these areas of your chart. That is what this timeline is meant for. Now, for those that are going to be in their nodal oppositions, that means their South Node is in Aries natally and their North Node is in Libra natally. You're going through your nodal oppositions. That would be February of 2014 to November of 2015. So this will be for kids. This will be their first nodal activation. That means we're going to see certain shifts and adjustments in regards to them. August of 1995 to January of 1997. January of 1977 to July of 1978. And the last one I have written down here, June of 1958 to December of 1959. So think of your parents, think of aunts, uncles, anyone that would be in this time span, like they are now in their nodal opposition. That means the North Node is going to be going over at some point in the next 18 months the placement of their natal South Node and vice versa. The transiting South Node will be going over the natal placement of their natal North Node. This is a timeline for these people where we are erasing and eliminating old karma to allow new karma to come in. Still very much about balancing. But we clear certain things and we magnetically are in a reverse stage to where we're meant to be in regards to our soul path. But this is a necessary reversal because we can't be forward motion all the time. We have to go back over things. That's why we have retrogrades. That's why we have nodal oppositions. Part of this eclipse axis is to create new karma. Good, bad, or ugly. You're creating new karma. Okay, if you have your natal North Node in Cancer, natal South Node in Capricorn, this is going to be your nodal square, but what's going to happen is that the nodes are pushing away from your natal placements. So you guys are starting to feel a shift towards how you'll create new karma, but not necessarily be in that new karma quite yet. But you will start to see certain shifts in the energies around you. And at some point, there will be a full activation where the nodes will square your natal placements and it will look like a target. And this is why I call it an activation. There will be this type of activation for you where certain energies will start to turn based off of the transiting nodes. Vice versa, if your natal North Node is in Capricorn, your natal South Node is in Cancer, you are going to activate those areas of the sky. You're going to go through that target nodal activation, but you'll start to go towards alignment energy now because the South Node is moving towards Cancer and the North Node is moving towards Capricorn. Everybody is in different placements as to where they're going to go. Some of us, we're not going to have any touches, so to speak, of the nodes to our natal nodes. So I'm not going over all aspects in that regard. But the main thing that I wanted to look at and talk about was this part right here. Was letting people know that not everybody follows astrology. There's plenty of us that we have people in our personal lives that they don't follow astrology, that they're not looking for this type of energy, but they're going to have moments in the next year and a half that they're either having amazing gains or hellacious purges. All of it meant to get us to a certain level of balance and peace. But if you don't know what's hitting you, then you have no clue just how this is affecting you. We all have those people in our lives. This is why I gave that date range, because some of us are going to be going, wait, my best friend was born in 1986. I need to double check that. She might need to know some of this. That's why I'm saying that. Now, if this has to do with like specific houses, that's going to be a whole different conversation. That's going to be something that would be really good for people to do with an actual individual reading. This is more just the generic information to let people know what kind of energies are going to be activating for us and how they're going to activate. Now, let's talk about how parts of this is going to start. So, let me show you the screen. Now on the screen, this is going to look a little different than normal because I've removed some of the planets. I've left. I've left a few things, not all things. So that's why you're seeing it just a little bit different this time. So the new moon is going to perfect mid-afternoon, July 17th. So this is 1:06 p.m. Central Standard Time here for me. I'm in Oklahoma. Just a quick reminder about that. On July 17th, this is what we start to have. We have our very first Mars, our very, very first Mars activation is starting, and that is Mars is entering its opposition to Saturn. This is not going to be exact on this day. It's going to be exact a few days later. However, this energy is very, very activated at this moment because we're 2 degrees apart. The normal range of separation that we start to look at is 3 degrees. This is at 2 degrees. Therefore, there's something in this new moon and something in the nodal axis changing that immediately instigates an energy that is going to happen with that Mars opposition to Saturn. Now, not going to get into the Mars opposite Saturn. We'll do that on the weekly forecast. However, the reason I'm bringing up this new moon activation is because I remember how the nodes in Scorpio and Taurus started. This happened back in January of 2022. So the way it started was one day was the Sun conjunct Pluto. The next day was the full moon in Cancer, but the Sun was still conjunct Pluto. And right after this full moon perfected, the nodes changed signs. The nodes immediately went into Taurus and Scorpio. It was like this day, the next day, day 3, nodes changed signs. I think it's interesting that when the nodal axis started in Scorpio and Taurus in these Mars-Venus ruled signs, it started with a full moon in Cancer. It started right as that one perfected. So like that full moon wrapped up the last one and started the new one. Here we start the new axis right after the full moon. This new moon in Cancer is going to perfect. So I have this by hour. July 17th, it's at 1:06 p.m. I bump it to 2 by 3. There you go. Immediately after the sun and moon start to separate, they get more than a degree apart. The nodes change signs. When the nodes change signs, they immediately enter the square with Pluto, which we will be dealing with for 3.5 weeks. The South Node is now in the Venus-ruled sign. Therefore, where we previously were having gains with Venus, now we're having release. Now we're having loss. Now we're going to have purging. Now we're going to have deactivating, detaching, letting go, release. Release is a word. What's Venus going to do right after this? Turn retrograde. What do we deal with? We deal with all the re's. Not just release, but remembering, reevaluating, redoing, reconnecting. But for a lot of people, this is going to be more in that reevaluation, refocus, review. And for a lot of people, this is going to amplify the South Node's energy in Libra. There is going to be timelines over the first few months of this nodal axis that it is met with loss, that it is met with purging, where it is met with letting things go, where it is met with releasing things. We will outgrow, we will detach, remove in a lot of ways. This is that type of energy. We started just a few days after this new moon and just after these nodes change signs. The nodes are going to square Pluto for a good 3.5 weeks. So again, that is going to like put pressure in a different area of the sky. That is going to make us go back over things. That is making us review and rethink and redo certain things. Why? Because Pluto's retrograde too. And Pluto is going over areas of the sky where the last conjunctions to Pluto happen. Venus-Pluto were conjunct at 28 degrees back on New Year's Eve. After that, it was the Sun-Pluto. It happened right between 28 and 29 degrees. And then it was Mercury-Pluto. That happened at 29 degrees. This most recent Mercury-Pluto opposition that occurred right before Mercury went into Leo was also at the 29 degree mark. So certain things that are going to come up right now are going to be tying a bow, so to speak, on things that occurred back in late December, in January, in February, and in March. And I specifically have to bring up the March thing because there's a bridge, there's another element that's going to bring up March stuff again when we get into November, whenever Mars is going through its rebirth. That's why that's important. Okay? Pluto's going back over certain areas, so we need to wrap up some things very much tied to Pluto's energy in Capricorn. Not everything is set, not everything is where it needs to be, and we will start this axis off in a very weighted, recanting, removing, releasing type of energy. It's very almost hyperactive. And if it doesn't happen directly during the actual Venus retrograde, it's going to happen afterwards when Venus is back direct and going back over those areas of the sky for the third time. The thing about this Venus retrograde is it starts right as the node changes signs. That means up until this point, there has been a lot more gains for Venus and Leo. After Venus turns retrograde, it's not going to be gains anymore. It's going to be the other side. It's going to have more shifts. There's still going to be support. Jupiter and Uranus are in Taurus. They're going to support Venus. They're going to offer her certain things. They're going to be able to help with the troubleshooting and getting things understood and figuring some things out, but they won't help with everything. So be aware that this Venus retrograde is a mixed bag. There can be some gains, but there will be a lot of letting things go and releasing things and purging things, because we must put things back into balance. Why do I say that? Because the South Node is in Libra, which is represented by the scales. Balance. Now, I want to move this Ascendant. I'm just going to keep moving it forward. Here's the Ascendant, guys. There you go. Forgot that I don't have that on there. I'm going to start this with the Ascendant in Aries. I want to go over what this is going to mean for your individual sign based off of where your Ascendant is. And a reminder for everybody, I read everything from a whole house. So I don't care if your Ascendant is at 28 degrees or at 2 degrees. The entire sign that your Ascendant is in, to me, is your first house. And now every numerical house that follows will now be tied and associated with the next zodiac sign. So, in this regard, for Aries and Aries rising, you have the North Node entering your first house of you, your body, your mind, your ego, everything related to you. Now, the thing about Aries is y'all are already kind of hot-headed. I'm not trying to make jokes in regards to, because not every Aries rising is hot-headed. If you are an Aries rising, but your Mars is in Cancer or your Mars is in Libra, you're not necessarily as hot-headed. But that doesn't mean you're not without ambition, that you're not without ideas, and that you're not without desires and gains and wanting to be able to do certain things independent of others. The North Node transiting your first house, the way that it will be for the next 18 months, is going to mean that the eclipses are bringing gains into you as an individual. It will give you a lot of boost to your ego. Not necessarily that y'all always need it, but it will boost your ego. It will put a lot of things in perspective and it'll put a lot of things at play for you. If you're wanting to do things in regards to business, if you're wanting to do things that you've never done before, if you're wanting to take on new responsibilities and take on new actions and new desires, this is going to be the energy that brings, magnetically draws those things that are meant for you to you. On the flip side, you have the South Node now going through your 7th house. The thing about the 7th house is it's the mirror opposite of whatever the first house is. So if the first house is you and your body and your mind and your ego, there's something going on outside, guys. I'm sorry if you hear it beeping in the background. But if you're having all of these gains, then we're going to have an area that must have balance. It must have release. It must let some things go. If you are trying to do more as an individual, that means that you are relying less on somebody else. That can be a business partner, that can be romantic partners, that can be companies, that can have to do with like going through and dealing with legal matters and documentation to, in some ways, separate. Now, not everybody. Now, if you are in a long-term happy marriage, the South Node in your 7th house does not have to mean divorce. It does not have to mean separation. And I want to be super clear about that. However, it is going to indicate certain areas where you're going to see shifts and changes in your partner, which is completely normal. And then also in your reliance on your partner. Maybe they are getting busier and they are also having gains. Maybe they are taking on a new career. Maybe they are taking on certain things. And that means you have to take on more responsibility because they're growing and they're doing well. This can also mean that you have to close out certain legal matters over this 18-month span. If you've had something that's been lingering, that's been going through litigation for quite some time, certain partnerships that are starting to fall to the wayside, this is a moment, this is an 18-month cycle, I apologize, that is going to make you break away from certain people. It's going to make you push certain people away. It's going to make those people fall away from you naturally. It doesn't all have to be you pushing people. Sometimes it's literally the natural fall away, the natural release. People move to different departments. People move to different states. People just move to a different company. That doesn't mean that you have to lose that friendship altogether, that partnership, that connection altogether, but at least the dynamic of it is going to change. You will see your relations with other people, business-wise, client-wise, career-wise, your goals for the future. Some of that will be in actual relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship or anything else, but we will see certain connections and certain relationships fall away. Our need for them will fall away. The dynamic of that relationship will change based off of what's going on in your life and in their life. There will be some things that are natural, but there will be other times that's a little bit more explosive. Most of the time, it's going to be the more natural thing. You're just going to see the adjustments and the changes for other people. The other side of that is with the North Node attracting magnetically so many things in your first house, is some of the other people that will fall away are going to fall away because of jealousy. The longer things seem like they're going very, very well for you, the more jealous other people are going to be. And if you are aware of all of that moving into this situation, it makes it a lot easier to deal with. Okay. Moving this along. Putting the Ascendant in Taurus. So for Taurus suns and Taurus rising, we're looking at the nodes going into your 6th and your 12th house. The North Node is going to go into your 12th house, the unknown, endings, letting things go, healing. Understand that the 12th house is also an energy that is very much about things that are going on behind your back, behind the scenes, without your knowledge. You are going to get a very fresh perspective of certain people that you have met and been interacting with over the last year, romantic relationships that you've connected with and how they're going to turn things about. The way certain energies and activities that have been going on, they're also going to have a bit of a face turn. This can be both good and bad. If you've been slowly putting things together with the hopes that when you launch a business, when you launch a program, when you go into your new school, when you get moved into your new house, that you're going to be able to go from like working and having to travel, not, 5 days out of the week, that maybe you can be more remote. There's going to be a timeline where you have to settle out the old way of doing things so you can have the new, let's say, remote office for just a moment. However, that's also going to create other issues that are not yet expected, that haven't been put into motion. There will be people that start to come through that have already been here for a while. For many of you, they've already been here for a while, that you're going to see the flip of the switch. And you're going to see how they behave when you're not looking. You're going to see what's going on behind your back. If you've had things that have gone on over the last few years that haven't been able to close out, what you're also going to see is other people's karma. You're going to see effects of your own karma. While having the North Node going through your 12th house, there's going to be very explosive gains and closure. You're in certain connections, in certain relationships with a bit of a bang. The most recent timeline that I would think, I'm saying bang loosely when I say this part now, the last Mars retrograde we had, of course, was in Gemini, but the one before that, the one that was happening at the end of 2020, that happened in Aries. So think of some of the energies that was going on literally the last half of 2020 and the first 2 months of 2021. Because during that time span, Mars was in Aries. The North Node has a very hungering energy to it, and it's going to be in the Mars sign. So you're going to see certain people that their ambitions and their hunger is going to change. And not all of that is going to be suited for you because you're Venus ruled, not Mars ruled. Now let's talk about that Venus ruled sign. By having the South Node go into your 6th house of health, there's now going to be adjustments in your routine. Adjustments in the way that you care for yourself. Adjustments in the way that you care for other people. There's going to be potentially loss, releasing in things surrounding pets. Sometimes we see a decline in our pets, not necessarily a full-on loss, just to be clear, but we will see an adjustment. Sometimes what one part of this can lead into, if you're going through a divorce, sometimes you have to separate the animals. I personally had to do this during that Mars retrograde back in 2020. At the end of that, I lost one of my dogs. I lost one in the divorce. So you can see a reduction or change in regards to how you connect with animals or pets or livestock. Now, the thing about the South Node is it's not always going to be the purge aspect. In some ways, this is going to be about peace. Having the South Node go through the 6th is we're going to need to find certain ways to settle areas that bother us, areas that bother our stomach, areas that bother our nerves. We're going to have to create a new routine that allows for peace. As certain things are revealing themselves that have been going on behind our back, understanding that not everybody is for us whenever we get those lessons over the next 18 months. That's going to be very specific to eclipse season energy, by the way. When you get an idea of those things that have gone on behind your back and you're getting an idea of like what needs to end with the North Node in the 12th, that's going to allow for you to peacefully find new space in how you care for yourself and how you care for other people. Now, I would be very mindful for my Taurus risings when Mars is going through that 6th house and wrapping up whatever it's going to be, whatever started in October of 2021. And again, those dates again were October 6th to October 10th. There can be disruptions in regards to you, because you are Venus ruled and Mars will be going through the Venus ruled sign. There can be disruptions in health. There can be disruptions in your routine, and it doesn't all have to be your routine. This can have to do with family members, with your kids, with matrons or mothers, or the instrumental members of family. That can be the most specific during that Venus retrograde going into the timeline that we're going to be going through. After we get through November, I think the majority of what you're going to be seeing is really going to be letting things go that don't serve you, that aren't good for you, seeing what's been going on behind your back, getting a very different perspective, getting closure on certain things, releasing them, purging them, healing from them so you can create a new peaceful routine. Okay. For Gemini and for Gemini risings, we're going to have the North Node going into your 11th house of friends, network, colleagues, people that you choose to associate with. When you donate your time, when you do levels of humanitarianism, then these are the people that you connect with there. This can be your clients and clientele. There is going to be gains in the seeds that have already been planted in this area. There's going to be shifts in regards to the connections that you have made over the last year. There's going to be turnarounds in regards to how you connect with certain people. I wouldn't be surprised with many Gemini risings if you don't end up with new companies, or if you don't end up with like some level of a promotion. I'm saying that because you have Saturn going in the 10th right now, which is going to be wonderful for Gemini risings whenever it comes to career and outlooks for the future in the immediate, but it also means that the way that you connect with certain people is going to change. For you to have this change that is going to allow for, new books of business, new clientele to come through, new connections in regards to work, then there's going to have to be some type of release and letting things go. Now, the thing about Geminis, we're a bunch of kids. I'm a Gemini sun. That's why I say that. We're a bunch of kids. There's a reason, like, whenever I say certain things, I laugh at my own jokes in these readings. And it's because I got Gemini placements. I like to joke around, but it's like harmless joking. By having the South Node go through your 5th house, there is going to be adjustments in certain childlike behavior, first and foremost. Now, that adjustment in childlike behavior, that can literally be an adjustment in you and your attitude for you to ascend into whatever role you're taking on. That means we can't joke around and say the same types of jokes with our coworkers once you're their authority figure. It sucks, I know, but it's true, because now you're being held to a different standard. Your representation in their eyes is supposed to be at a different standard. And in some ways, one of the things that it's going to be a struggle is the people that you have done business with for a very long time, or you've worked next to for a very long time. If you get picked for like a promotion over them, they're not going to be quick to recognizing you in your new position. They're still going to try to treat you the old way because they're not going to want things to change, which is completely normal. However, you're going to be making some changes. Adjustments in your connections with these people, adjustments in your friends, adjustments in the people that you do business with, adjustments in leveling up in your personal image, given the fact that Saturn is in your 10th house. Now, the other thing that Gemini risings can see, because it's not everybody's dealing with promotions and getting gains in that regard, but some of you are going to literally just have a adjustment in your friends and the people that you do business with, just in general, like a growth and adjustment in this friend category. This is going to allow for certain financial changes to happen, and any fears tied to finances to be able to be overcome in a lot of ways. Is the initial energy going to be quick for overcoming? No, and I'm being super clear about that. It might take a few months before the true gains really start to happen. On the flip side, you're going to have the South Node going through your 5th house. This means some of the things that have brought you happiness, some of the things that have always been lucky for you, might not be the same anymore. The South Node going through this area is going to mean we outgrow certain things. Some of you are going to be dealing with almost like empty nest energy, not all at the same time. But if your kids are getting close to their preteen years, you're going to start to see their evolution. You're going to see their growth. You're going to see their change. This growth and change that you're going to see means you're going to see certain childlike activities in your immediate surroundings that start to fall away. If you would normally take your kids and you would be a part of the events with them, say you always go to like soccer games, or you always play soccer with your kids, or you're always outside playing baseball, play catch, they might outgrow that, not want to do that anymore. And that again is going to be some type of childlike energy, childlike behavior, or childlike thing that you do that is going to start to fall away, that is going to drift away. Some of you are going to get so busy with work that you're going to start to have certain things with kids kind of fall to the wayside. You're not going to make it to the recitals. You're not going to make it to certain events. And you need to be prepared for the salty energy when you're that busy. Again, this is going to be over the course of 18 months, so I tried to give as much energy as possible. As more people start to come in for you, it's going to appear like luck isn't always on your side because you are gaining all forms of people with the North Node going through your 11th house. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes when you're having so much gains here, we can have a bit of an issue with our picker. And that means we can start to fall for certain people that should only be our friend. We can make certain connections with certain people that can have a bigger energy to them, affairs and things like that, but they're not meant to be for more than a season. I want Gemini risings to be very, very aware of new relationships and new relationship patterns. If you get into a new relationship, I really do suggest like writing down the dates and seeing how certain things play out. Because if you have somebody new come in on a Mars transit, then this might be a lesson for you, not so much a welcoming energy. So be aware there's going to be a lot of relationship tests, especially whenever we get into Sagittarius and Capricorn season. Okay. For Cancers and Cancer risings, we have the North Node going into your 10th house of career, your public image, where you're meant to shine, where you're meant to do the best moving into the future. This is where Jupiter has been for the last year. And over the last year, there have been conversations. There have been plans that have been made. There have been hopes that have been expressed. There have been seeds that have been planted that now need sunlight, and they need the watering, and they need all of the nutrients to grow into something. Cancer risings are going to have a great chance to really step up their game in regards to career. Considering this is going to coincide with that Venus retrograde in your 2nd house of money, some of y'all are going to be spending some money to make the money. So you're going to be investing in new software, you're investing in new things, you're investing in the new platform, you're investing money somewhere because it's all going to feed into that career and public image area that you have been working through for the last year. We want expansion in this area. We want growth and opportunity in this area. Jupiter and the North Node have just swapped signs. Jupiter's now in your 11th house of friends and network and colleagues. Trust me, those seeds have been planted. Now it is time to get the grain and get the fruits of everything that we have worked towards in the last year. On the flip note, though, we are going to have the South Node in the 4th house. Home life, roots, ancestry, matrons, motherhood, the skeletons in the closet, 4th house energy. There will be certain connections to family where your roots are set that are going to fall away. Now, for some people, that's going to be as simple as, for me to do well in my career, I got to move to the big city. To move to the big city, that means I got to move out of the country. Hi, I'm country. We're going to have a moment where we have to move away from home to have success. We're going to have to let a certain energy fall away so we can have that gain. And over the next year to year and a half, we'll feel and see exactly that. There will be a shift in where we put our roots, a shift in what we see as home, where we call home. We will see certain losses in this area. It might not just be you moving away from home. It could be multiple people having to move away from home. If you have, your siblings and I'm thinking small town mentality again here. You have all your siblings and there's no real good jobs in the small town that you're from. Of course, people are going to start to move to where the opportunities are. Others are creating the opportunity, and that is going to mean that certain things at home are not going to be as important, as in the forefront, as big as they have been in the past. Certain things aren't going to bother you anymore. Some of you are going to end up moving. Others, and this is not going to be the easy thing to tell people, others are going to deal with a loss. A loss of a maternal figure, a loss of a matron in the family. There will be some type of loss in that regard. Not everybody, but these are the different things that you can expect to see over the course of the 18-month time span. We have to detach in a lot of ways to be able to grow as an individual. And for you to have this growth in career that you're seeing and that you're working towards and that you're, taking on new learning and new experiences all at the same time, for you to have the amount of growth that you are anticipating and wanting in life, cutting ties with certain family members isn't going to be that big of a deal. It's going to help you because, again, we trim the weight. Anyone that is going to keep you from being able to excel into the best version of yourself, anyone that has been holding you back in regards to family, it is very likely that is going to be where the cutoff and the release is going to be. It's either creating the distance or block. So these are types of the energies that we're going to be looking at while the nodes are going through these signs. Okay. For Leo and Leo risings, we are going to have the North Node going into your 9th house. Higher education, higher learning, how you connect to your higher self, to source, to God. There is belief and faith in the 9th house. There is learning through experience. The thing about Sagittarius placements, which Sagittarius is usually tied to the 9th house, is that they are the explorers, but not necessarily just like the quick little exploration all the time in regards to one area of life, but all areas of life, all avenues, all the continents, all of the states, all of the roads, all of the seas. For a lot of Leo risings, there's going to be a lot of travel over the next 18 months. Some of this travel is going to be for business. Jupiter and the North Node have just swapped signs. Jupiter is now in your 10th house of career. We start this axis with the Venus retrograde in your 1st house. You're getting a facelift. You're having certain perspectives in the way that you see certain things, the way that you communicate certain messages, the way that you deliver certain ideas. They're going to change. The branding, the marketing, they're going to change. They're going to change because you need to be on a higher level. If you've only focused, for my real estate people, if you've only focused in your small town, you could only be the big fish in a small pond for so long. At some point, you have to figure out, to make more money, to be more successful, to be able to do more, we have to grow. That means The branding, the marketing, that's going to change. The communication, the things that you've done for a long period of time, they're going to change. The certain neighborhoods that you network in and do certain types of business in, they're going to change. They're going to change because of the expansion. For some of you, Leo risings, you're going to be looking at moving a long distance away. Some of you are going to be looking at moving because you're seeing new career opportunities. Some of you are going to be taking on new career opportunities, and you're going to be learning as you go because there's been no choice. You've had to take on certain roles and you weren't fully prepared for them. Regardless of how much education and training a person can have, you are not always prepared for everything to hit when it hits. There will always be something that you're like, man, in 25 years, I've never seen anything like it. There will always be these moments. So there will be moments in time in the next year and a half where you're having this growth and change in your career and in your public image, and where certain things are starting to fall into place for you after the facelift is done, which the facelift won't be done until October. After that timeline, there's going to be certain things that really start to fall into place and really come together and really start to turn because you are changing as an individual. Not only are you changing the message, but you are learning in the moments. Each of these moments that are meant to be teachable experiences are meant to humble you. Leo risings, did you hear what I just said? Humble you. I said what I said. Anyways, moving this along. For Virgo and Virgo risings, I have said this to you guys multiple times through multiple episodes. Anytime we've talked about like new moons and full moons, I'm like, some of the things that are going on, they're gearing us up for what's going to happen the last part of the year. For a lot of people, this timeline that we're going into, the start of the nodes going into the new area, is going to really start to trigger a transformation. A transformation of your inner child, a transformation based off of old things coming from up to the surface, old memories, wounds that need to be healed, things that need to be dealt with, things that need to be purged. They're going to come through. The North Node is going into your 8th house. There are layers to the 8th house. There is the financial layer, cryptocurrency, stock, taxes, inheritance, debt, loans, finances. There's a financial element to the 8th house. Shared finances. The 1st house is you. The 2nd house is your money, your shit. The 7th house is other people. The 8th house is other people's money, i.e. can also be shared money. There will be a gain in this area. There is either going to be a gain in regards to like a partner and their career aspects turning things full circle and having an adjustment in the finances. Or there's going to be taking on more debts. But if we're taking on more debt, it's more going to be along the lines of trying to adjust another area, trying to put something else in perspective. It's based off of a partnership. Some of you are going to be wrapping up legal matters in the next 18 months, and this right here is going to be what instigates the payout of what has occurred. Now, on the flip side of that, the South Node is going to be going through your 2nd house. Your money, your assets, your values, the way that you make money, the connections to certain areas in making money, they're going to change. Many of you have been working in one field for quite some time, and now we're realizing this field isn't for us. And we need to take on new education. We need to take on new knowledge. We need to do something we've never done before. For those that are taking on the new education, taking on new knowledge and taking on new things, part of the reason that you're taking those on and you're having now gains in the 8th house is because you're taking out student loans. That means later on when you go to pay them back, the South Node in the second, is going to limit how much extra money you have because you're going to be paying those off. Now, I have a very interesting message for the Virgo risings based off of something that I've already dealt with in my life. If you have natal placements, this is very specific to the Virgo risings, just to be clear. If you have natal placements in that late degrees of Aries, where the North Node is going, specifically in this timeline where it is squaring Pluto, I need you to understand the amount of transformation that is going to come through. I said a second ago that there are layers to the 8th house, and I talked about all the financial layers. The thing about money is not everybody likes to talk about money. You don't go out and tell every Tom, Dick, and Harry, like, hey, this is how much money I made last week. This is how much I made. This is what's in my bank account. We don't always, if people do that, it's annoying. It's like, I don't care. Why are you telling me this? The thing about money is not everybody likes to talk about money. They don't want to talk about how much is in their bank account. They don't want to talk about how much money they make. They don't necessarily want to share all that information. And if you're not willing to share it, another way to describe that is you keep it a secret. And now we get to the other underbellies. There are secrets to the 8th house. Other things that would be more secretive would be affairs. Sex, but not the lovey-dovey type, but the kinky kind. The one that requires the safe word, BDSM, the things that we don't easily share. If you are having sex and it's a secret, it's, again, this is where that affair thing comes up, is we have our secret hookups. We have those types of things. Those can be impacted, both positively and negatively. We can gain a buddy, but we could also lose a buddy. If we have a buddy, but we also have a wife or a husband, that affair can come to the surface through the eclipse seasons. And I'm telling you this now. The other thing about the 8th house is it's tied to transformation. Now, traditionally, the 8th house would be associated with Scorpio. And there are 2 rulers to Scorpio. There is the traditional ruler, which of course is Mars. And this is the Mars-ruled sign. But there's also that modern ruler of Pluto, which is definitely a planet of transformation. In the start of this nodal axis of the North Node going through Aries and the South Node going through Libra, this is going to trigger Pluto. These nodes are squaring Pluto in your 5th house. This is going to trigger fear for some people. For others, it's going to be a power struggle. For others, it's going to be things around kids. You're going to learn something from your kids that is going to completely blindside you. And it's going to shift certain perspectives. Having the nodes squaring Pluto the way that it is, especially if you have natal placements in that 29, 28, 27, 26 degree area of Aries, this energy is going to trigger transformation. Regretfully for a lot of people, though, that transformation energy is going to be tied to some type of fear because of the pressure of Pluto. If Pluto was full on direct, I wouldn't feel this way, but you got to understand the nodes are going to be squaring Pluto. The nodes already move in a retrograde pattern. Pluto is retrograde at the time of the square. Therefore, Pluto is going to be moving backwards with the nodes for the first, basically the next month. Sorry. The first full month of the nodes being in the sign, like we're going to be dealing with that pressured energy. There's going to be areas that we need to go back to the past. We need to go back over certain situations. We need to go back over conversations. We need to go back over things. And again, this is going to trigger a lot of transformation in many of you, especially if your moon is in Aries right here, if your sun or your Mercury, because these are the ones that are going to impact your ego and body, sun, your logical mind, Mercury. Mercury is also your chart ruler. And your moon, which is already the empathic energy anyways, or your moon. If you have placements here, you will be highly activated to transform, to go to the next level. I have seen dark nights of the soul with planets squaring, and the nodes are in the 8th house. For you, this is the node in the 8th house. And it is going to square an area of the sky that makes you very, very aware of why transformation is necessary. Why financial transformation, why physical transformation, whatever it is, there is going to be an area of the sky that is very, very pressurized. For some people, it is going to have to do with like, I need to change this pattern in my luck. I need to change this pattern in how I see happiness and how I see love and how I see romance. Some of you, it is going to be about memories from your childhood that are going to pop back up to the surface. Some of them are going to be based off of a recent love connection that is triggering certain things and making them come to the surface. But the first 6 months, not quite that long, but the first 6 months of this nodal axis, the way that it is really going to lead to large amounts of transformations for Virgo risings. There will be some of you that go through dark nights of the soul. There will be some of you that have to purge and deal with very old wounds that are coming up to the surface, especially if you have placements in Leo where Venus is going to do this retrograde. But Virgo risings, you guys are definitely on deck. There will be a lot of you going through your version, whether it's the first one and you've never dealt with it before, or it's another round of them, because we have more than one dark night of the soul. The thing is if it's your secondary or your third round of it, it's easier to get through once you know what you're in. But the ones that are dealing with it for the very first time, this is going to be heavy and dark and hard, especially if they don't know what it has to do with. Okay. Oop, I hope that didn't mess up the screen. Moving us forward, we're going to get the Ascendant in Libra. The South Node is entering your first house. I'm going to flip it for you guys. We're going to start with the South Node. The South Node entering your first house is going to make you very aware of your body, of things in your body. You're going to feel different aches and pains differently than you have in a very long time. You're going to feel like that very first time that you go to get up and that kink in your back, you're like, oh, what was that? Your awareness in your body is going to be very big over the next 18 months. There will be certain habits that you have that are going to fall away because you're going to realize that they don't actually correspond with things that you're wanting to do, that they're impacting your Venusian energy. And you will literally have certain aspects in your habits, in the way that you think about things, in the way that you do things, that will fall away. Now, some of these falling away are going to be based off disruptive patterns in the beginning. In others, it's going to be based off of where you're seeing new gains. And that is going to be because the North Node is now in your 7th house of marriage, of partnership, of legal matters, of everybody else. I said this in the Aries part. I'm going to say it to you guys too. If the first house is you, the 7th house is the mirrored opposite. You are going to be letting certain things fall away from you. You will feel certain things fall away from you. You will have certain parts of your body that start to shape and change, whether that is getting older and noticing the wrinkles and the saggy skin. I got a scar right here in my chin, and every time I have a certain angles, it makes me look like I have more of a double chin. And I swear to God, I noticed it more in the last year and a half of having the South Node go through my first than I ever did before. But it's just a natural thing. Like, your skin starts to drag. But the other thing is like, if you're younger, then there will be development in your body. certain ways that are going to reshape themselves. Some of you are going to learn certain things in regards to your dietary health over the next year and a half, and that you don't need to have certain habits or behaviors anymore. And you're going to have to make adjustments in your health to be able to maintain your body. The South Node is the body that has been removed from a head. So the awareness of what is going on in your body is first and foremost whenever it comes to the South Node going through your first. On the flip side, you're going to see gains, shifts, and adjustments in a connection with other people. This can be friends, this can be clients, this can be a business partnership. For many Libra risings, you guys are going to be dealing with legal matters, especially if they have to do with money and finances. There can be some of you that are taking on new jobs that are going to start to pay you better. Some of you are going to be taking on new business ventures, and then of course you're going to see the growth and change in regards to loans. Jupiter and the North Node have just traded places. Jupiter's now in your 8th house. You can be a little bit more indulgent with Jupiter in the other Venus sign, which again, if you indulge too much, it'll show you very quickly where you need to make an adjustment in your body. There's going to be things in regards to health that come around. Many of you are going to see the shift in other people. Now, if you are in a marriage or in a partnership of any sort, this shift can be a shift in their behavior, a shift in their attitude, a shift in their ambitions, a shift in their drive. This can be both positive and negative. The thing about the North Node is it is the head. The head is ego. There can be an ego change in certain people, and you can be very quick to notice it. And at certain points and at certain periods, that is going to be a little harder to deal with. But the thing is Mars rules that 7th house of other people in marriage and partnerships. You are already very familiar with how the ego affects other people. There is a reason that the sun is exalted in Aries, but at its fall in Libra. Libras tend to care about other people. You tend to put more emphasis on what your image appears to with other people, how people perceive you. And many of you have had to make adjustments, not just in relationships, but also in your tribe and in the people that you're surrounding yourself with. And the first part of this eclipse axis, the way that it is going to be very much about cleaning house in your soul tribe, in your friends, in your clients, in your book of business. There's going to be a shift. There is going to be a change. There is going to be a purge in this area. This then is going to make space for some of the people that are meant to come through. And you have to be aware if these people are going to be on your spiritual level, or are they more focused on their ego? And you're going to see both. You are going to deal with both. Not everybody that comes through is going to be a great match. You are in an 18-month period where you are attracting everybody. Anybody and everybody. They're all coming through. And you're going to have to learn based off of tuning into yourself, tuning into your body, tuning into your intuition, and tuning into you and who you are. You are going to have to learn to read those people and figure out who is for you and who isn't. And I think for a lot of Libra risings, the first part of this timeline is going to be lessons in exactly that. Who's for you and who isn't. Mars going through your 12th is going to make some certain things from the past come back to the surface. There's going to be understanding and learning certain things that have been going on behind your back. And after you learn and you deal with the shakeups that are tied to Mars's energy, going through Virgo, and once Mars goes into Libra, for a lot of people, Mars and Libra is not going to be great. But for you, it's going to really put a jump start in certain ambitions And again, it's going to attract more people to you. And you are going to feel the disruption. The first few months of this nodal axis in this area is not going to be fun. But it's all going to be very necessary to put you more into alignment. You, your hopes and dreams for home, your hopes and dreams for your family, where you're wanting to be in career, how you're wanting to be seen in this world, all of these things are going to adjust. And by the end of this 18-month period, you will be far more at peace with who you are than right now when you're starting it. 18 months from now, you're going to be a lot more subdued and at peace and not putting up with other people's shit. Okay. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, we're going to have fun, guys. What did Jupiter in Aries teach everybody? What did you learn about your health, about the health of your family, about your routines that needed to change, what needed to strengthen, what needed to grow? Because the next layer of that is going to grow even more with the North Node going into the 6th. If you had little things popping up in your health during that timeline, now the eclipse axis is really going to put focus on the area that has already been shown to you. If you needed to deal with something in regards to another person's health, then again, the eclipse axis is going to show you exactly why these lessons were put in front of you. The South Node going into the 12th house is going to mean releasing, finding peace, more connections to your spirituality, more connections with letting old habits go and letting old cycles go and letting old connections go. We have the South Node, which is already a cut-off energy, going into the 12th house of the unknown, the unseen, and endings. You will be releasing connections to certain people, karmic connections, not so karmic, just normal friendships. You will lose certain people in your life because you will be having gains in your work, in your routine, in your health. You will be releasing certain habits because you're going to have gains. And all of these are meant to really amplify the things that are going on for you in career, in your public image, and in the way that you are meant to shine in this world, because the way that we start this axis in this area is with a Venus retrograde in your 10th house. This area of finding a new way of working through things and letting go of old ways is also going to really impact your way of thinking and your way of communicating. And you are going to understand just how important and powerful your message, your words can be. Because the start of this axis of the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra and the 6th and the 12th is squaring Pluto, baby. It is squaring our chart ruler. The message, the things that we've communicated, the decisions we've made, there will be pressure in this area. There will be pressure in travel. There will be pressure around needing to reach out and do things that are in distance from yourself, but not being able to fully distance yourself. It's kind of weird, but it's going to be like seeing things close out, but you're not right there when they're closing. You're an hour away. You're 3 hours away. You're in the courtroom while they're in the hospital. You're in the classroom while they're in the bank. Like, we're all in different areas. So a lot of the times whenever you see something close out, it ain't closing out on your lap. It's not closing out in your front yard. It's closing out way the fuck over there. And this is going to be something that you're going to see over and over again. And for you to have this growth, this spiritual, peaceful growth that is meant to start to shine and really show who you are in this world, that means we will be letting some things go. And we will be purging some old karma, and we will be getting more in tune with our spirituality with the South Node going into the 12th. Many of us will see very peaceful endings for certain people, very peaceful endings in certain connections. It's just saying, look, I love you and I will always have love for you, but we can't be friends anymore. If you're going to keep making these decisions that are detrimental to your health and then repeating this pattern over and over again, and then showing up at my door crying your eyes out because he just broke up with you for the umpteenth time, for the umpteenth girl, and you want to keep repeating that pattern, baby, this door ain't yours anymore. You can't keep coming back here. You want to keep doing the insanity? I don't. I'm ending the insanity here. And some of you are going to be ending friendships just like that. It's like, until you figure your crap out with him, don't call me. Don't come over here. Don't call me. Don't put me in it. I'm not a part of it. There will be moments like this where we let go of certain people. We outgrow certain people. We outgrow certain situations. We see certain endings truly end. This 18-month cycle is meant to grant peace, but it's also going to bring up a lot of old memories. It's going to bring up a lot of things from the past. It is going to bring up a lot of things below the surface, old traumas and old fears that, again, that we are meant to go over and deal with so we can outgrow them. These things are very necessary for us to outgrow, because the next cycle of Pluto going through Aquarius is meant for us, the Scorpio risings, the Plutonian people of this world, to truly help transform the new age that's coming through, the new age of technology, the new age of transformation, this new age of intelligence. It is being ushered in by Pluto, our chart ruler, for us to be able to help people navigate their awareness of transformation, the awareness of doing well, the awareness of being a better soul, to create better karma for ourselves, to be better parents to families. Means we have to go through this purge of letting old things go and old habits go and finding peace. It is necessary for us to excel next in life. Okay. Moving this along, we're going to get the ascendant in Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius risings, we have the North Node entering your 5th house of love, romance, happiness, joy, children. A lot of Sagittarius risings just heard all of that and said, hell no. Why? Because Mars rules this area, and that Mars retrograde has put a huge bitter taste in all y'all's mouths. There were things that went through the last half of last year that has really put in perspective, like, I don't ever want to deal with this type of relationship, this type of crap, this type of bullshit. I don't ever want to deal with this ever again. And part of the reason is because of that Mars retrograde. The bigger part. The reason that Mars retrograde was necessary for many of you was to make space. The people that we were attached to, the legal issues that we were going through, the partnership that we were in, the workplace that we were dealing with, this all was a part of an old cycle. And we needed to make space for new things to come through. Now we're going to have gains in love, in romance, in happiness, in joy, in children, in childlike behavior. You will feel certain returns back to your inner child. You will find new ways to laugh again now that certain wounds are being overcome. We're letting things go. We're letting past things go. Many of you, more of your focus is going to be on your home, on home life, and your children. And that is because we have the North Node going through this area. But not only that, we have Saturn in your fourth house of home life, and family. For the wellness of you, for the wellness of your children, for the wellness of your family and your home life, all of these areas to fall into alignment, that means we have to really understand why our focus is where it is. And if we do this work and we create this new routine and we do these things that are really going to help your children, help your inner child, then we're going to be able to overcome certain connections with past people. The South Node is going to be going through your 11th house of friends and network and colleagues and people we like to do business with. We need to let go of certain connections. Now, if some of you are going through a divorce or have just started the process of a divorce based off of the energy from that Mars retrograde, then some of you are just going to naturally see the people fall away. Even if you don't force somebody into a decision, there tends to be a decision that one friend is going to go with one of them. Like, very few people ride the line of, I'm still friends with both of you. No, most people make a choice. I'm going with this person. I'm with this person. I like her better. I get along with her better. Nah, man, I like hunting. We're over here. We hunt all the time. I'm a hunting buddy. Decisions will be made, and you will see which of your friends, which of your network of people, which of your colleagues start to fall away from you. Who is no longer meant for you and who definitely is. You're going to get a perspective here. There will be moments in time where you meet certain people that start off as a friend that might turn into a love connection. This is a very big possibility for Sagittarius risings. And I would really put emphasis on trying not to get into too deep of new relationships until we've had a little bit more gone through. Like, I would wait until after the second eclipse season. I'm not even kidding you. The first eclipse season, it's all like 11th and 6th house because it's all Venus ruled. So certain things in regards to those friendships, you'll see where the purge is very, very quickly. That's literally going to happen over the next few months. Like, you're going to see like which of your friends are falling away, which of the groups of people that you can't network with anymore. So like if you and your spouse always went to the same church for a long time, one of you is not going to keep going to that church. One of you is going to be choosing a different church. And when that happens, that's that 11th house stuff. That's that making a space. That's that clearing things away. That's letting certain things go. We're going to see the choices that are made by other people, and the ones that fall away from us are going to be the ones that were keeping us from being able to be happy. They're a part of that old energy that's not meant for us anymore. So for us to have happiness and have joy and have certain things, we need to live and experience things a little differently. And we need to learn the new parts to our inner child. This can be a really fun axis for Sagittarius risings. It's just going to take a little bit of time for you to really get all of the fun. Okay. For Capricorns and Capricorn risings, this is the North Node going into your fourth house of home life, family, roots, ancestry, the skeletons in the closet, matrons and mothers. We are going to be seeing a new focus on home, on family, on mothers and motherhood. There will be more of a focus here because we have a deep-seated need for having roots. You are Saturn ruled. Saturn is the slowest planet. You are very slow to make decisions. That's not a negative. You're cautious. You want certain things to go well. You want to be right because so much relies on you. The thing about people that are Capricorn, Saturn ruled, or if you have Saturn in the first. I have Saturn in the first, but I'm not a Capricorn. I'm a Scorpio. So sometimes I deal with this in a very unique way. But the thing about people that are Saturn ruled or Saturn in the first is that they are the natural supervisor. They're the natural expert. They are the ones that everybody gravitates towards naturally to know what to do. The thing is, you have the South Node now going through your 10th house of career and public image and things for the future. You don't fully know what is happening next. And for you to know, you have to get back to basics. Where do you get back to basics? By really emphasizing certain lessons in regards to communication, actually talking about your feelings. I said what I said. And as we work through certain things and as we deal through certain things, we will have a gain for our family in our home life. That is where this energy is taking you. You just had the North Node going through your 5th house of love and romance and children, and now it is going into your home. There has been new love interests. There have been growth in children. Either you've had children, or if your children are grown, they are starting to get into relationships. They are starting to get married. And this growth area is now coming home. And you are going to be looking at creating a new home with a love interest. You are going to be looking at the expansion of your home because of children, or because of your children getting married to have their own children. And many Capricorn risings, by having the South Node get into the 10th, you're going to become grandparents. Your image will shift. Having the South Node going through your 10th house of career, public image, hopes and dreams for the future means goals that you may have had 3 or 4 years ago are not the goals that you have anymore. You have a different outlook in this area. You have a different career in mind. You have new things in line for you. You have an idea for business. You have an idea of a better way to make money. And that is coming through with that Venus retrograde in your 8th house. Now, the nodes, when they immediately change signs, they're going to put a square onto Pluto in your 1st. Many Capricorn risings are going to be dealing with a pressure on them to transform, to deal with something, to overcome fears, to overcome past trauma. And this will allow for this new area of life that needs our focus to truly be our focus. You guys are slow to shift your focus. You're slow to realize the need to change something. You're slow to deal with something. But the thing is, your chart ruler, Saturn, has been in Pisces since March. You've had plenty of time to deal with the deep-seated things that need to come to the surface, that need to be talked through, that need to be dealt with. And these things that are coming to the surface are going to be the things that help us transform. The ruler of your 10th is in a retrograde in your 8th. We are transforming in regards to finances and how we connect with certain finances. We are transforming our debts. We are transforming so many different areas. This transformation will also lead to a transformation in ourselves. Capricorn risings and Virgo risings are the ones that, in my opinion, are going through the biggest transformations. They're having the biggest expansion, soul expansion in regards to connections with other people, expansions in family, dealing with old wounds and old trauma, and growing on a soul level. And I'm saying that because Pluto is about to wrap up its very, very long trek through Capricorn, because it's been here since back in like 2008. Pluto's wrapping it up. He's tying a bow on unfinished business. You are within a year just over a year away from not having to deal with Pluto in your first house anymore. Congratulations. That means we are getting to a point where we are wrapping up fear, we are wrapping up trauma, we are wrapping up old things and allowing ourselves to transform and really re-grasp our personal power. This is going to be very transformational for many Capricorn risings. You're going to have gains in love. You're going to have gains in your children. You are going to have gains in home life and family, which is directly going to impact you changing the way you see your future and the way that you shine in this world and the way that you are meant to succeed. Those areas are changing. Okay. For Aquarius and Aquarius risings, this is the North Node moving into your third house of communication, of neighbors. I like to associate the third house with branding, logistics, short distance travel. The South Node flipped. It's going to be in the ninth house, so long distance travel. Many Aquarius risings are going to find whole new reasons to travel, whether that is based off of a partnership. Say some of you are entering long distance partnerships. That can be very, very big possibility with this Venus retrograde in your seventh. You can be on a vacation and meet somebody and fall into the whirlwind energy. I don't like that, but at the same time, it's a big possibility, so I can't ignore it. Many of you are going to be letting go of old belief systems and learning new ones. Say the person that you just met, they're not Christian, they're Jewish, they're spiritual, they're anything but what you are. What does that mean? That means you are going to start to learn and identify the patterns of what's going to be similar to your own faith and your own knowledge and your own experiences, and you're going to have growth and changes in certain messages of communication. These messages that we start to adjust and we get more perspective on is going to really shift the way we see our faith from before. Many of you are going to have a bit of a car fetish over the next few months, and you probably have already started it whenever Jupiter was going through your third, but now you're really going to be like, I spent like a year, I was really looking at those Jeeps and I really, really want one. And by the end of this 18-month span, you'll have bought 2 Jeeps. Or a Jeep and a sports car, or a Jeep and a motorcycle. We're going to have expansions and growth in this area. We are going to allow old belief systems to fall away. Many of you, we're going to, if we've had a pattern of how we've always saw things needed to go, well, I should be the breadwinner and you should be a stay-at-home mom. And now, with this Venus retrograde in your seventh, your partner's going, no, baby, I'm going to work. I'm going to go do something different. You are now the support. And you are going to have to learn a new way of thinking. Not all y'all are going to like that. But you're going to have to let go of certain old ways and take on the new experience and be a part of this journey and be supportive. Because, Aquarius, your chart rulers are chilling between your second house of money. Saturn is on the screen. But Uranus is still in your fourth house of home and home life and family. Uranus is not on this screen. Because of this right here, for finances to go the way that you want them to, then the additional income is necessary. For you to have the assets you're wanting to gain, then you're going to have to make sure certain things numerically make sense on paper. That certain contracts and things are in order to keep that supply of money always coming through. And some of you are going to have to realize that your way is not the only way. It's not my way or the highway type thing. Sometimes we have to give a little bit. And this is going to be something you guys have to learn. You can respect your partner and see good in your partner, but there's a lot of Aquarius risings that you guys are very much stuck in your head. I'm not saying you're like a Leo, but I am saying y'all get stuck in your head. And this is how I want to do things, and this is how I see things, and this is how it's going to go, and this and this and this and this. That needs to change. There needs to be new ideas planted, and you need to understand the old ways are falling away. For you to have the power level that you're wanting to have, you need to have a certain type of energy in the partner that you share your space with. This Venus retrograde is going to bring in new people for you. People that are going to be a part of your soul tribe. People that are going to strengthen your family. They're going to strengthen your resolve. They're going to strengthen your knowledge base. And that again means reframing ways of thinking. Aquarius risings, you are support in this Venus retrograde. By the end of this Venus retrograde, you will see where you need to unlearn old ways of thinking to learn new ones. You're going to unlearn things based off of experiences to gain refreshed ways of dealing with things and a refreshed mindset and a refresher in your ambition and in your drive. Watch your mouths. I know you guys. There's a reason Aries rules your third house of communication. Y'all hurt feelings with your words very well. Watch your mouths. Okay. Oh, for Pisces and Pisces risings, we are looking at the nodes going between your second house. The North Node is entering your second house of money, assets, values, the way that you make money, how you spend money, what you're doing with money. You are meant to have gains financially. This is going to be counterbalanced with letting go of certain connections to other people's money. If you've been in a relationship for a long period of time, you can see certain parts of that relationship dissolving, and that means you're not going to have the shared finances anymore. Some Pisces risings are going to deal with that. Some Pisces risings are going to have to deal with lawsuits, legal matters. That again is going to impact the finances. Why? Because court costs money. Lawyers cost money. All of the documentation and filing and all that all costs money. So that's going to be things that are impacted. Some of you are going to have to pay out money based off of those legal matters that are going to come to the forefront, especially in the first part of the nodes in this area. Because when the North Node goes into your second house of money, the ruler of that second house of money is in your seventh house of marriage, relationships, partnerships, legal matters, obligations to other people. There will be disruptions in this area. This disruption is meant to put certain things in perspective, because one of the areas that needs to shift is your soul tribe. It needs to transform. It needs to grow. There will be gains in this area. Why? Because these nodes are squaring Pluto in your 11th house of friends. The way that you do things in your routine, the way that you care for other people, the way that you care for yourselves, the way that you do certain things at work, those are going to get very much observed, tested, and adjusted. You're going to see a shift in career. You're going to see a shift in your money over the next year and a half. But you're going to see exactly why that is in the first part of this timeline. For some of you, this Venus retrograde in your sixth house is also going to bring up things in regards to your health. If it's not your health, then it's the health of loved ones. It's the health of a sibling. It's the health of aunts or uncles. It's going to be the health of like nieces and nephews. There can be some of you that are going to be dealing with your own intestinal health. Many of you could be dealing with the health of other people and their things and what they need to deal with. These things that come to the surface in the first part of this axis are, again, one, going to transform the way you see a friend, the way you see certain groups of people that you associate with, but it's also going to allow for you to see certain transformations. The South Node is going through your 8th house. The 8th house topically has to do with money, debt, inheritance, taxes, investments, shared money, cryptocurrency, stocks, anything tied to other people, that's 8th house. If it's not just what's in your bank account is 2nd house. If it's a shared bank account, like you and I have a bank account, that's 8th house. This energy is going to make you shift the way you see other people and their money. It's going to shift the way that you see certain habits regarding money, and it's going to shift the way you see certain people. You will see the transformation of others, and that transformation is most likely tied to a loss. It is tied to the purging. It is tied to the release. It is tied to the things that are being let go of. Pisces risings, I've said this before, you guys were going through tests in the beginning of Saturn going through your first. Saturn is making you level up as an individual, because by the end of this timeline, the guru energy that is tied to Pisces risings is really going to ascend in a lot of you. The teacher is going to come through, not the person that is stuck in the depths of emotions, but the next level of you. The next few years are about ascension for Pisces risings. And right now, you guys are going to see a mix of why you need to ascend, what things are going to change in your routine to make you ascend, what things are changing in your health that are really going to make you ascend into a higher level person, and who needs to fall away in this timeline. Whether that's a romantic partner, whether that is a friend, whether that is like a group of people. Some of you are going to be changing in career, and you're going to go from like your sales position where you have to deal with everybody to an office position to where you only deal with like an isolated few. That's going to be an adjustment. That's going to lead to transformation. Your connections with money and everything else are going to change. Some of you are going to be going from like living in an apartment complex to living in an actual house. And again, the way you connect with certain people are going to be different. Your car isn't going to be getting parked in a parking lot anymore. It's going to be in a driveway. It's going to be on the street. Some of us have to park on the street. Depends on like how old the neighborhood is. It's parked in the alley. There will be an adjustment in groups. You will see that space differently. You will see that your attachment to this space differently, and it will also feed into that financial adjustment. Some of this is going to be good, some of this is going to be negative, but for a lot of Pisces rising, it's a mixed bag for Pisces. I'm not even kidding you. It's such a mixed bag for Pisces risings because of how spread out everything is. It's spread out obviously for everybody, but everybody else has a very clear, concise pattern. With Pisces rising, it's just like some of y'all are going to be doing transformation. Some of y'all, it's going to be all money and work. And then for some of you, it is going to have to do with health and getting over that level of transformation and seeing disruptions with other people, or having your health be the cause of disruptions for other people. There's a lot of adjustments coming, but it doesn't all have to be negative. Now, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I want to talk about one other thing in regards to the nodes going into the axis that they will. All of this year, of 2023 so far, when we started this year at a Mercury retrograde. The second Mercury retrograde, of course, happened during eclipse season. The next Mercury retrograde is going to happen during the Venus retrograde. But all of them up until the next one, the one that's going to happen in Virgo, they're all Earth ones. 2023 has been riddled with Earth-only Mercury retrogrades, which means anything that we have to review, redo, re-up, change up, whatever we're messing with in the re-aspect, has been tangible. It has been Earth-related after the next eclipse season, after the Mars rebirth, so after November, when we get to the next round of Mercury retrogrades, the one that will end this year, because we get to end 2022 in a Mercury retrograde, and all the ones that will follow will be a mix of Mercury retrogrades in fire signs, or Mercury retrograde being split between earth and fire signs. This tells me that whenever we go through the North Node in Aries, the North Node in a fire sign, the North Node in the reactive fire sign, the child fire sign, that means that it's going to be a very impetuous energy that starts to unfold. It doesn't unfold in the initial, per se. The only thing I got to say about that is the fact that Mars will be in Virgo when that Mercury retrograde starts. We will be dealing with Mars very much co-present with Mercury in Virgo. So there's still that Mars element, but it's still a Mercury retrograde completely in an Earth sign. They don't make a conjunction. I've said that before. We're not going to start to deal with conjunctions to Mars finally until we get into October. And those will be the first ones that we've dealt with since August, not including the moon here, but since August of 2022. It will be 14 months before we have our next conjunction to Mars. And those conjunctions will happen with the North Node in Aries, in the Mars ruled sign. That means we're going to have gains when those things occur. But until that, we have to do some balancing. This Venus retrograde is about balancing. But after we get through the Venus retrograde, after we get through the eclipse season, and after Mars has its rebirth, all of the Mercury retrogrades are going to be either, again, fire signs or earth to fire. That means the impetuousness of individuals means we are going to be reacting in the moment, learning through experience, and so much of that impetuous energy is going to have to make us go back over things. Go back over our ambitions. Go back over our desires. Go back over our passions and the drive that we're following. This entire year that will follow, starting with the December 2023 Mercury retrograde and carry all through next year, will really make us evaluate and reevaluate just what we're doing in our ambition and in our drive and in this eclipse axis. There will be tests and growth in these areas. And the way that we wrap up this nodal axis of the South Node going through Libra and the North Node going through Aries, the way this will end is in a Mars retrograde. We started in a Venus retrograde. We will end it in a Mars retrograde. So we trim the fat. We trim the things that are keeping us out of balance, and new energy, new enterprises, new levels, new chapters are going to come through. Those chapters are going to be very motivated. There will be a lot of fast-moving energy. There will be a lot of reactive energy over the next year and a half. And that's going to be good for a while, but then after a while, it's going to be very hot-headed. And there's going to be arguments, and there's going to be more tension. And we're going to see just how this impetuous Aries energy starts to affect our passion. And some of us are going to become very disillusioned after a year to a year and a half. Others are going to be very, very much more motivated, but that's because they like the challenge. Some people look at every obstacle like, yes, give me another one. Let's do it again. Like a child. Aries. It's like, I'm going to climb up there and I'm going to jump into the water and psh, and then I'm going to go do it again and do it again. Some people like the challenge. Other people that are trying to get things going, that don't like the challenge, that don't like the constant headaches, that don't like the things that are constantly going to be popping up, they won't continue. They will actually be what shifts after the nodes change signs in 2025. That far away. This is going to be a very intense, fast-paced, motivated, and ambitious eclipse axis energy between now and 2025. There will be so much motivation and so much activity and so much reactiveness and so much action that will occur that everything that we've been working through and making peace with and dealing with over the last year will truly be in a whole different standpoint at the end of this next 18-month cycle. Everything we've let go of is really going to be put in perspective. Everything that we've worked through, all the seeds we planted with Jupiter in Aries, we're really going to start to see them blossom and come to the surface and come to the forefront and come to fruition. But so much of it is going to be so fast paced that we're going to have no choice but to check ourselves. The universe is going to check us, and they are going to check us through Mercury retrogrades. And that's going to be important because at the end of this nodal cycle, when the North Node leaves Aries, it's going to go into Jupiter's sign. And when the South Node leaves Libra, it's going to go into Mercury's sign. There's a reason Mercury is going to be the one that fact checks us and gut checks us so much. Because of the corrective action Mercury is going to be planning on for us to deal with once the nodes are in the Mercury-Jupiter Aries of the chart. And that, again, is not going to happen until 2025. So we got a year and a half of fun and excitement and reactiveness and expansion and growth. We're going to see things come full circle. Okay. I don't have any other notes. I actually feel really good about this. So I hope this is helpful. I know everybody has like different ways that they look at things. I look at the whole chart. I never just look at one aspect of it and keep everything to the one area. I look at things in the broader perspective because the thing is none of us are just dealing with one thing at a time. Every single one of us are dealing with layers of things, multiple levels of things. At the same time that I'm doing this right here, you know, my mind has thought of like 20 different things of things I want to go look at afterwards. I have also, while I was doing the research of this, saw certain patterns that I know are going to have to be brought back up and lined back up whenever we talk about the end of this nodal cycle. This is going to have large amounts of energies that are going to be just beyond what would be the normal basic scope of things. I don't like to do things in a basic way. I like people to actually have a good perspective as to everything that's coming through. So I hope this is helpful. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with questions. Hit me up with concerns. And if anybody is wanting to schedule a reading, message me either directly or through the Spiritually Bushy astrology page on Facebook, and we'll get those things scheduled. So I will talk to everybody soon. Subscribe.